guys, welcome. It is Aloha Friday. Yes, it is. What, guys? You gonna sing with me? You gonna sing? It's Aloha Friday, no work till Monday. No, not quite. Okay, I'll continue that for Cantina later. So, yeah, the dogs know I'm live. So, we got. I moved all of the lives up about an hour today for multiple reasons. Number one, this press conference happened about 2 hours ago. I caught it about 10 minutes in, and it was too late to go live with it at that time. So I decided, let me wait and just move things up a little bit so we could talk about this. I know I normally do mental health stuff, but there's been a lot of you wondering about the missing. I've had, and I think a lot of it is because we do talk about the missing on this channel so much. And this has hit a lot of our hearts. The number of missing people, especially where it was looking at initially and all. There have been some major changes, drops in numbers. This press conference, actually has a lot of good information in it, a hell of a lot of good information. So I want to go through that, update you guys on the official list right now. And then we can discuss other things as things come up. So as people are popping in, though, let me say some quick hellos. Our first person in chat was Dear JP. Okay, and JP just got his album out. Oh, here comes my puppy stealing other puppies' treats. And also, good luck on that, my dear JP. Hope you're having, yeah, actually, it looks like it's doing good. Lone Wolf, I said it in chat. You do so much already for the Discord. I mean, would be about 80% more empty than it is right now if it wasn't for you posting such awesome information, articles, things like that. But I really thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And the dogs will too, because I'll be able to get them more of these goodies. And then Christola made it, not first, but she made it. I love you, my dear. You know that. I love you. Who else we got here? I saw Hope popped in. Hope, yes. I was hoping you would see this update because I know you've been very concerned about all the missing, especially children, things like that. And things are actually looking much better than we thought they would be. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. There's a lot of other things going on there. But honestly, guys, when we look at it, things are much better than what I thought they were going to be at this point of the game. So FarQ, hello, FarQ, how you doing, my dear? And says people, hey, that'll work its way out. Give it time, it'll work. In the bushes is here. House in the bushes. Hello, what, Cassie? Are you barking at people? I had auditions today. I'm going to be assistant directing for a show out here in one of our theaters. So we had auditions yesterday, today, tomorrow, and Sunday. But today was via Zoom. And of course, the dogs had to bark the whole time I was on the Zoom audition. I'm reading parts for people. Oh my God, it was a mess. So, and there's Kay. Hey, Kay, how you doing, my dear? And let's see, Sleuth. Sleuth is getting through her work weekend as it continues. But yes, you girl, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. And Miss Danette, hello, Danette, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see, is that about everyone? There's our dear Lone Wolf coming in. Oh, there's Seal. Hey, Seal. Love you, my dear. Love you, love you, love you. So, Tim. Just as I'm getting ready to move on, Tim walks in with the tomatoes. Hello, Tim. How you doing, my dear? And so before we go into the press conference, I wanted to start off sharing with you guys the most recent official list. Okay, they have this list out, and yes, the Facebook groups are still open where people are doing all the helping out, the neighbor to neighbor. Okay, this is what I need, this is what I have to offer. Okay, there's been people saying, hey, I'm getting ready to get rid of a dishwasher or washing machine. If anyone wants it, they can have it. People really helping each other. Okay, true Aloha spirit, guys, really. And we also still have the web page, the Facebook page, where people are able to say, I have not heard from so-and-so. Have you heard from, okay, so-and-so? There were a lot of homeless in this area. And I think that's been caused because you kind of I don't know about you guys, but in the area I live, we have quite a few homeless. And you get to where you know the homeless. You recognize them. You may even know them by their first name, things like that. You worry about them when things like this happen. So I think that's happening. But I did want to start just showing you guys this. This is the most recent up to date unaccounted for list. This is being updated every day, and it's over on the Maui Police Station or the Maui Strong sites. All this, okay, we have a couple different sites that we can go to get this information. This is one of the things they've had problems with in this issue is there's a lot of people who, okay, anytime you have a disaster of any type, remember after 911, remember after Katrina, all these things, everyone scatters. And then you're trying to come back, and it takes a while for that to happen. And that's what's been happening. Over time, people have been reporting other people up. Hello, Kyle. How's everyone doing here? AK, who's Kyle? Oh, Sleuth. I'm looking here and I'm like, I don't see a Kyle here. Who the heck is Kyle? So, oh, yes. So anyhow, what they've done is they've gone through this, and we're getting down to the point where if they don't have a missing identification number connected to them, okay, that's how they're finding out what's official. Now, are there going to be people that are not on this list? Yeah. I honestly believe there's going to be some, there's not going to be thousands, gang. Those people are thinking there's thousands. I'm sorry. Just my own personal, everyone has their own decision to make and all. I do think there are going to be some people, though. I really do think there will be some, especially on the homeless side. Okay, those that were hanging out in, say, the banyan tree area and all. So, but this is the list right now. And as you can see here, anyone with the letter M by their name is known to be a minor. So that's how we can recognize. So this is the list. It's 2 pages. Yeah, hope. So many have been found. And guys, I have to say, they could be doing this the real quick way just to give us answers, but they're going through slow. They're respecting these people because so many of these people are not being, I don't want to say this, they're not being found as a full corpse. It's pieces. And because of that, you want to make sure that you're connecting family with their loved ones and not, there's a level of honor and respect that needs to be provided at the same time. So here's all these people. The star shows that there has been a police report filed for these people. I'm not going to go through the full name. When I first saw this list, this went on and on and on for pages. But you can kind of go through here and look, okay, all the ones with the stars here. There are, if I remember right, only 2 children on this list. So there's been here's one, okay, right here, number 1428 is a child. And I think there was one other, I'm trying to figure out where it went. It might actually be someone who was accounted for. Actually, it might be an accounted for person. This is where we are now of unaccounted for. Okay. As I mentioned, the numbers themselves, and I try to break this down, so we'll kind of go over this as they're talking, because I am going to actually pull this off the screen now and switch us over to the actual press conference. I've tried to figure out the breakdown of the missing versus the accounted for, because it is very confusing. It's extremely, extremely confusing for people to figure out, okay, what are the numbers like? So this came out, and this was this morning, like I said, about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. And it's got people from the Maui Police Department, FBI. It's got a couple coroners, medical examiners, talking about different things here. Let me make sure I've got this on. Okay, for some reason that does not want to go down. Oh, well, say la vie. Okay, let me try to do this there. For some reason I can't get rid of, my computer's doing the weirdest things lately. And also, there. Okay, that's better. So we're going to go ahead and start this. What I can tell you though right now, guys, and I can stop, let me know if you guys need me to stop at any times. I'm going to stop at a couple places. I definitely, let me pull this up. Some of the things I can tell you real quick for those of you who just want the down dirty right now. And then we're going to go through this. Hello, Mel, and you're welcome. The actual death toll right now is at 97. That's official death toll. Actual remains that they've been able to connect with. Okay, so that's number one. Now, of those 97, 74 have been officially identified. They've gone through DNA, maybe, as they mentioned in this, pacemaker, not okay, things, many different ways that they've been able to identify people. One of the things a lot of people don't realize is out here in Hawaii is where a lot of the military, you know, when we have unidentified soldiers who have passed away across seas during war, whatever, POWs, MIAs, they come back to Hawaii. And a lot of the investigation into who they are happens here in Honolulu. Because of that, we're using a lot of those services to help find out who the people are from Maui. So 74 of them have been officially identified. Now, those unaccounted for are 31. There are 31 people that families are saying, I cannot find my loved one still. They have not been identified or anything on that level. They're still missing, officially missing. And for the, are there possibly others? Like I said, yes, I'm sure there's some homeless people out there. I'm sure there are some people who may not have had a connection to recognize that they're missing, as sad as that sounds. I know there's probably a few of those. And I do know there's a lot of people who have been scared to submit DNA because they're hearing so many horrible stories about, oh my gosh, they're going to use the DNA against you, things like that. And I understand those fears, but that's also kind of holding back some of these numbers too. Hope said 31, so sad, but still better than hundreds. And yes, that's it exactly. It is. I mean, I did not ever think I would be reporting on this and talking with you guys and be saying we're looking at possibly about 105 people. How do we come with 105? Basically, adding the accounted for with those officially identified, we come up with 105. So that's what we're looking at right now. For those of you who need a down dirty because you're at work and you need to get back to work or something, for all my, okay, anyone from here in Hawaii, because it is literally 3:15 in the afternoon here. And at that, hello, Princess Megan. How you doing, my dear? Oh, it's been 92. Ooh, yeah, it's hot lately. It has been freaking hot lately. It's the worst time of the year. This month is kind of the worst of the year. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and start this. I have subtitles. I am going to give you guys a heads up. The volume is a little low for the first minute or two, couple minutes. I'm not going to say minute or two, couple minutes, but then they kind of fix it out at that point. So just a heads up about that. So let's go ahead and start this.
Process 4 weeks ago, and we talked about trusting the process. And so for those that don't understand what we meant by that, it was the process referenced the unaccounted, and to get us to a point that we would understand the size and scope of the situation we were in. We had a whole bunch of data sources that poured in, and we had well over 3,000 names that came in from a variety of places. And
first of all, sorry guys, my closed captioning is so freaking small. Let me see if I can fix that at all. There, I just got to make the screen bigger, and I will take out the phone number. You guys, if anyone feels like donating, they are still going to be needing money, especially in the future over the next couple months. And right now they've got a lot coming in, but it's going to dwindle over time. So I did pin at the top of the comments that area. So let's go ahead and get this. Hopefully you guys can read subtitles there.
Over the past 4 weeks, with thousands of hours from the FBI as well as our task force at the Mint, we've been able to reduce it from 388, 385 to 66 to now 31. And what's important about the 31 and why this is key is every single one of those names has an MPD missing person report associated with it. Because of,
I'm going to just stop that there. I was so happy to hear that they've actually filed numbers with all this stuff. That was something I kept waiting for, because those of you who follow missing know how important those numbers are. People say they're not in the system. They're not in the system. Okay, so we've got them in the missing system. We've got them, okay, actually with claims now going on, which is a huge step forward for me.
the MPD reports, yesterday we recovered 2 additional individuals because we had actionable intelligence in a police report. As we brief out, I'm going to let you know the numbers of 115 has changed, and I'm going to have the medical science and the forensics explain why that is. What's extremely important is that we have identified 74 individuals, and we have another 31 on our list. The process moving forward will be on Fridays, depending on give or take if there's a holiday or there's a factor, but toward the end of the week, MPD will be releasing the list moving forward with the names like we have for the foreseeable future. If you have a loved one that is missing because of the fire event, and I stress that because it's for the fire event. We'll continue to take missing persons reports for other things, but for the fire event, please, we'll have the information available. We need you to do the MPD report. The number that we're using moving forward right now is we have 97, not 115, and they will explain why that is. We don't just have a couple of folks that are here today that have been working on this. I think it's really important that folks understand this. So the medical examiner that MPD hired, and we were going to get him this month, but Dr. Jeremy Stoopnagel, when he came to us, he came with more experience than even I knew at the time, but he worked on 9/11 cases in New York for the time he was there. They're still doing cases. They just identified 2 more people, and he worked there for over 10 years. And so we're using reports.
That's amazing to me. Okay, 911 happened 20 plus years ago, and they're still identifying guys. I mean, that floors me, completely floors me.
Reports from New York City that were used. We're contacting from Pennsylvania when Flight 93 went down. We're looking at all the data points we can to make this the best, most concrete investigation and process we have. And so Dr. John Bird, he's in charge for the federal government in recovering with anthropology and science, POWs and MIAs that this nation's lost. And he's the one that helps bring closure to those families. And so we have the best experts in the world working on this, which is why, if you think about it, 5.5 weeks later, we've identified 74 individuals. We've got DNA profiles on 95 individuals. And we are constantly striving to make sure that we do this to the best of our ability. Doctor?
Thank you for receiving us today. We are continually working. So far, of the people that have come through our office, we have 96 discrete human remains. We've done approximately 199 different recoveries, with the understanding that many of the people who are coming through our office, because of the fire, because of the heat, because of the situation of this being a mass disaster, many of them are down to the bones. Some are fragmented. Many of them have required secondary and even tertiary recoveries. We've worked to reunify people, to have them as whole as they're going to be, to make sure their remains are whole when they go to their families. We're also working with some people who have come together and to separate those two people out and make sure that each family member has unaccountable human remain being able to be delivered to them at that time. We're working with our anthropology
It's
colleagues
amazing.
to reunify these remains and make sure we have who we think we have and they're as complete as they can be. We've also been doing, as Chief said, working with DNA. We've had dental experts, a whole team of dentists looking for DNA and dental comparisons. We're even looking at surgical hardware, pacemaker serial numbers. We're trying every single modality we have to make sure that we identify these people. It does take a lot of time. This is a mass disaster. Many of the people who have come to us, you would think it would be something straightforward, but people seeking shelter have gone into other people's homes. They're in different cars, they're in different places, they're in places they're not supposed to be. So with the help of our FBI agents and leads and the help of the community, we've been able to track down addresses and people and find where they are, where they should be or could be. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that we have these folks as complete as possible and to strive forward and bring closure to the community. Thank you for having us here, and thank you for receiving our information.
It amazes me what these people have been able
Hi,
to pull
I'm John
together,
Bird.
to be
I'm with the
honest.
Department of Defense, and we're here through FEMA to support Chief Pelletier and Dr. Stupnagel through this process as long as it takes to get a satisfactory conclusion to the work. We've been doing search and recovery operations down in Lahaina for about a month now. You may recall we had in a lot of teams with dogs, and we went through a lot of different types of searches. We're kind of the final type of search. We go through very carefully, kind of the fine tooth comb approach, and we've been ensuring that where we do find remains, that all of the remains get recovered.
So this guy is from that POW MIA group that we were talking about. And yeah, Hope, it's just so sad. It's horrifying how all this is coming together. These are, I mean, the work that they do here. Okay, I've told people before, my dad is buried at Punch Bowl. Okay, where he was buried originally was a plot for a Pearl Harbor unknown soldier. They found out who he was, and his family wanted him back on the mainland. And my father ended up filling in that plot. And these people work so hard to get people back to their loved ones. And I'm just happy that they pulled them into the whole situation.
Covered and brought to the forensic center so that they'll go home to their family. We've also been following leads that come from those missing person reports that the chief talked about. And the information in the missing persons reports has been used by us to go out back down to Lahaina and search specific locations to try to find the remains of the persons that are believed to be still there. And we've had a fair bit of success with that. And so those missing persons reports are extremely important for us to reach finality on these searches for our missing persons. We're very honored and pleased to be here to help the people of Maui. Most of us are from Oahu. We've been based in Oahu for decades. So Hawaii is home to us as well, even though we're a federal organization. And we hope that we can help as much as possible and bring this to a successful close. Thank you.
Now we're going to open it up for questions. I think we're going to do 2 each. But before we do that, I think what's really important and what's really key, we talked about doing it fast or doing it right. We have to do it right. And I think with what we're seeing right now, for the first time, we have a clear picture of what we have. And if you think about the 74 identified, and then the 31 current reports at 5.5 weeks, it kind of gives you an idea with the number that we're also talking about, 97. I'm not giving you exactly where we're at when this is all done. I can't do that, but I think for the first time, we now have a clear picture of what exactly this is. There's been a lot of different information that's gone out there. We had our own senator on the Senate floor talking about misinformation and other actors and people doing some things for nefarious reasons. But we have an obligation. We have an obligation to our community to make sure we do this right by them. And just think about this. And here's what the most important part is. For the very first time we discussed today, for the very first time, we legitimately have a chance. We legitimately have a chance to identify every single person we lost and to reunite them with their family. And so in the midst of all this tragedy, there's a little ray of hope right there. And so that really is incredible. It really is amazing. So I know that my PIO, Alana, is going to help with the questions.
Wendy Osher, Pacific Media Group in Maui now. I just wanted clarification on the 115 number. Has that dropped down to 97, and what happened to those 18 that were initially counted?
Okay, so the question is, what happened to the number of 115 dropping down?
Yeah, I actually seal. That's what gets me, because these people are dealing with these things every day. They're trying to, we know what it's like dealing with missing people. Okay. They're not only dealing with them, but they're dealing with remains. Okay. Loved ones calling up, trying to find out, or, okay, we've separated these remains into this person and this person. Now, wait, where did we find them? Wonder if we can go back and kind of clear things up some more to give people the best chance of having their love. Yeah, it's a lot for them. And I can understand why they get so emotional about it.
And as far as those 18 being unaccounted for now, Dr. J.
Yeah, I can help with that.
Talking about the changes in
That's a really
numbers.
good question. With the way the remains have come to us, many of these people are, like I mentioned, in a situation where their bones and their fragments, and they have had secondary recoveries and additional recoveries. So I'll give an example. So let's say we have someone who gets a DNA profile, and we get a DNA profile for an adult man. And then we have anthropology working, and we find remains of an adult man. That may be counted initially as 2 people, but as we find out that the DNA profile matches the bones we have, it consolidates to 1. So we've had a lot of consolidation of the cases in that kind of situation.
Makes sense.
A clarification and
Yes.
a question. Thank you,
Yes.
Judy, for the 97. A slide said something about 95 and you said 96. Can you clear up what those different 90s mean?
Yeah, so the 95 are the DNA profiles. However, even those we're combing through and making sure they're not duplicates. At the moment, we believe the 95 are 95 distinct DNA profiles for distinct human beings. But we are going to continue to comb through this data and
So what he's kind of saying there, for those of you who might not be catching it, is when people have been giving DNA and all, sometimes the numbers were so much higher because you may have had multiple people give DNA for the same person and not realize their loved one had given DNA already. You may have had auntie give DNA and also a child give DNA, or a mom give DNA. And also now numbers are starting to coalesce into what the real numbers are looking like.
comb and recomb and recomb. This morning, we combed through the data 3 more times before we met with you. It's a fluid number. All of these numbers are fluid, but we're getting you the very best data we have in this moment in time.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
My question would be, how many parents have submitted on behalf of children? How many minors are on the list?
How many parents have submitted for their children?
Any minors?
Okay, so the question is how many minors we have on the official unaccounted for list, correct?
Or among the DNA, if you know that the DNA is a child.
I don't have a specific number. I haven't looked at that specific number. I know we have a few minors, but I haven't looked at that specific number. I don't have one for you at this time.
Among DNA. And then on the.
I don't have it.
List, is there, or on the missing list?
So on the unidentified, I know we for sure have one. I know that we've made some notifications, and then we also
Hi,
have some that
Jordan.
we have not yet made
Welcome.
some notifications on. So we're still going through that, but we're going to release the list. And if there's an M minor on it, so you'll have that today and it'll be very clear.
So that's that list I shared with you guys at the top. Okay, the 2-page list of all the people. And I think I only saw one M on that list. I will check it sometime today to see if that's updated because they're updating that list regularly.
On the open cases specifically, every name will have, and then instead of the asterisk, because there's no longer an FBI report with an MPD, they're all MPD reports, we've designated the M. Okay.
And the numbers seem to be at this point sort of gelling between DNA and missing.
Correct. And so the number 95 referred to the DNA. 96 of the 97 were processed in part through the Mint or the morgue here. And we had one death that we know was related to the fire that passed away on Oahu.
Yeah, what he's talking about there, I'm not sure how many of you guys know. We had one gentleman who was burnt, had severe burns, and he was airlifted to Straub Hospital here on Oahu. While at Straub Hospital's burn unit, he passed away from his injuries and from the burns. So that's who they're talking about there.
So that's why that's the difference in those.
What's a DNA profile and a DNA sample exactly?
Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between a DNA profile and a DNA sample, correct?
Addressing Hope's thing there, yeah. The one is the one that's still unaccounted for. There is a couple others. I'm not sure how many. I think it may only be 1 or 2 others that I know of in the other list. That's one reason why they're trying to get people to realize, you know what, please, I know there's the fear about DNA. There's a fear, okay, especially if you have people who are not from the United States or stuff like that. But the only way they'll be able to find these people, okay, and recognize is if someone comes in and does the DNA and makes the report. So that's where that becomes very, very important. And right now, I will be honest, when families are on the internet stating, okay, yeah, here's a picture of my child, and they're not there. All those are my auntie or my uncle. And that's what I'm kind of looking for. Are there other people? Yeah, and that's it. Some of the kids may not have gone back to school right afterwards. Parents may not have. They may have been in a, for example, okay, a parent may have, because that was a big number when they went back to school, that not as many kids went back to school and all. Well, a lot of it was, are you going to send your kids to school right after something like this happens? Number 2, you had many kids in Kihei or Wailuku or all over the place. So things may have changed there too. So I think we're going to see more and more of those things come. I do get you though, what you're saying, Hope. One does seem very small, but I also don't think the thousands that we're hearing make sense either. So because parents would be screaming, to be honest. Anyhow, here we go.
A DNA sample is just a generic term for a sample of DNA, and a profile would be a specific sequence or allele sequence of DNA that matches that particular person or that particular person's family.
Star.
Oh.
Hi, Christy Wilson, Honolulu Star Advertiser. And the person, just a clarification, the person you mentioned, that's Kurt Carter. And his name hasn't been released, but he was the one who died at the burn Straub unit.
So I'm not going to release any names that that I have to let other people release the names.
They're talking about the guy who died here on Oahu.
Name like a month ago. So I mean, I'm trying to figure out, is he included in the total that we've been using, or is he not?
Okay, so the question is to clarify if a Mr. Kurt Carter
The man, you referred to a man who died on Oahu.
was the one that
And
Dr.
are we
Jeremy.
including him in the total now? Or?
Okay, so you're just asking if that individual, which the Honolulu Medical Examiner's Office released, is being tallied into our count, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So that is the name, but just hear me out on this, and this is why this is important. There was a family that had gone to the media and said that our loved one had passed away. We just this week were able to confirm that, although that story came out 4 weeks ago. I don't want to be in a rush, and if a different medical examiner made some pronunciations, we have to be careful. But I'm not saying on this particular one. I'm just saying as we move forward, we got to be really cognizant. Just because somebody says somebody is somebody, or just because they say they're related.
That does make sense because it makes us think that the numbers are much larger things. Because I remember, yeah, when the families were coming out at the beginning, because they knew their loved one was gone. You kind of get that feeling sometimes, plus you're not recognizing them and you're pretty sure. And also you make the comments. But for example, like they said here, that person actually wasn't identified until what was it, last week, I think he said. So it is important to be recognized because that's when our numbers in our head start to go up. And also that makes sense.
We have to do our due diligence. And so we're trying to be as thorough as we can. And hence some of the time it takes, because we've got one chance to get a notification right. And
But is he included in the total again?
ma'am, I thought I'm pretty
No.
sure I said yes. I'm
Okay.
pretty
No, he
sure I
did
said
not.
that. Did I?
No, he
Did-
didn't.
It was never
Did-
made
Okay.
clear because we
Yeah.
haven't released his name yet. But
Chelsea?
sorry.
So he was included in the
Um,
number.
Just
Okay.
piggybacking on Gina's question, because there's been limited information, and obviously, I understand to protect the integrity of the investigation, but there's been theories going around, specifically with the children, because school was canceled that day because of the winds, and so people have been
Welcome
asking
back.
us concerns about latchkey children. Did the parents get there in time? Did the children get out? But if we're going off of the victims list, I think we do see the 7-year-old and then the 14-year-old. And then off that unaccounted for list, there is that M next to 1.
Total of
So
3.
is it safe or accurate to say that there are 3 children out of the lost loved ones, the victims, and the accounted for, or is that number expected to rise?
Okay, that was a really
Yeah, I
long-winded
know.
question.
Sorry.
So basically, to summarize, you're asking if the correct count for minors as of now is 3, correct? Okay.
Okay. Fair
So
question.
there's a couple points in that. And so let me answer the question, because I think there's also an underlying question that's in there. And that's this misinformation. That's whether it's the sabotage, whether it's some of the false reporting. And let's really, and what I mean by that, and just hear me out. See you shaking your head. Hear me? No. Okay. Oh, okay. And so we've cleared out 3,200 names. We've cleared out 99%. Now there's some legitimacy in those, which is the 1%, the 31 that we've got. 99%. We've been able to mitigate, find them as accounted. And so when we were talking about horrible misinformation of hundreds of bodies that did not happen washing on shore or different things like that, it didn't happen. We have paid actors, some of them from other governments, as the senator talked about.
Yeah.
Folks that believe that the earth is flat and the Holocaust didn't happen, trying to create disinformation. I think the facts speak for themselves for the very first time of what is the size and scope. And so I can't get and give you the official number when this is all said and done. But if you at 5.5 weeks haven't reported the person missing, it's probably not legitimate. And so moving from this day on, the only numbers we will count as unaccounted for will have an MPD, missing persons report, for this. And therein lies the clarity. And so we're only going to give the names when we release them if they're a minor, and we've got that. And we're only going to release the M on the unaccounted for list as we do. And even if we know that there may be some that we suspect to be juvenile, please understand, I have to be cognizant that we've only identified 74, and some of those we haven't made the official notifications on. And so I'm trying to make sure that we go with some humanity on some of this in case somebody's expecting some of that news. And so I'll just refer to those as the official counts for the minors at this point. But we know now what the 74 plus that 31 right now is the scope of where we're at. We could get other reports in, but not to what has been missed.
You definitely can feel the frustration that they're dealing with. And I get it. This was part of the problem when the numbers that were being given out at the beginning were thousands and thousands and thousands. And that happens in these cases. If you remember after 911, the numbers that were being shared out were much higher than what actually ended up being there, which was still horrific. It's kind of that same thing now. And they're dealing with a lot of issues. And I think what's happening is they're getting frustrated at times. Okay. And you're seeing their emotions. I get you, Hope. I get you. And some people aren't going to trust certain people. Um, I think you can tell where they're taking things personally. Like this lady was literally just asking, is it literally just 3 people that we're talking about that are children? And he's trying to come out, but I think he's worried that whatever he says, people may go ahead. And what if the number changes in the future? What if there are some remains that they thought were children and they weren't, or vice versa, or things like that. So we'll do, Seal. So you can see the emotions in these people and how it's wearing and tearing on some of them. You can definitely see that. And
Misrepresented. And again, 99%. That is huge. You want to talk about a story. The
I
fact
agree
that
with
we're
you.
able to do that is incredible. And so the work that went into that to help diffuse that.
Hi, I'm Jennifer from the Associated Press. I just want to be extra clear that, because there was a lot of different numbers being thrown around. So 97 is the definitive number of people who have been deceased from the fires, down from 115 based on various factors with how the remains were found. 31 people are on the list of unaccounted for, and those people are the same amount or the same people who are on the list of folks that there are missing persons reports for, correct? So the missing unaccounted for number stands at 31, the number of dead stands at 97, and we're not expecting that number the 97 number to change very much.
Okay, so just to, you guys are asking some really long-winded questions. Okay, so to
Hi.
summarize, we want to know if 97 is the official count down from 115, and if the 31 is the unaccounted for, correct?
Correct.
Actually, Jim.
One of the things I want to emphasize, and this would really be true for both of the numbers, the 97 referring to our current estimate of the minimum number of individual remains that we're working on over in the forensic center. Now, I say it's an estimate because it may change as we do more work, as we do more refined work. We still have DNA samples that are being tested. When those results come in, you may find you have another person that you didn't realize you had before. And so 97, take it as an at least, and understand that that number is subject to change as the work is being done very aggressively. And people are working 7 days a week in the forensic center on these cases. We've got a lot of really good people doing this work. The DNA testing is ongoing 7 days a week. So these are based on the results. The chief's giving you the best numbers we have at the moment based on a lot of good work that's been done. You know, the 31, you know.
JP, how many islands? The deaths and all were limited to Maui. So we're talking one island where the deaths occurred. There was one death that occurred after a person was airlifted from Maui to Oahu, and they were at the burn unit there, and they passed away there. And some of the things, I don't know if it was here that I remember about this, some of the stuff with DNA also, they're finding out not all the DNA that they are running turns out to be human. They've run into animal DNA, say dogs, cats, things like that. So they've had a lot of different things come into play. Hey, I'll see true crime. Love you, love you, love you, love you. So so this is all Maui.
What we've experienced doing search and recovery is that as the list get more scrutiny and as more time goes on, more and more people have been found to be alive who had been on list previously. And so that's one of the reasons it's so important to get it down to where a police report has been filed by a person knowledgeable of the other person. And the better the information in the police report, the more likely it is that that number is accurate. that this really is an unaccounted for person from the fire incident. But as the information is less certain, then that makes the list a little bit less certain. And so, what I would say is that we're giving you the best numbers that we have based on a lot of really hard work. And there's been a lot of really hard work in developing that missing persons or unaccounted for list. And there's been a lot of hard work happening with the identification efforts in the forensic center. But despite lots of smart people doing a lot of hard work, there's not perfect certainty on a day like today. But we hope that in the near future, we will actually achieve that perfect certainty as we, are able to conclude the work.
Chief, the 25 that were dropped from the unaccounted list, sorry, that means they were all found safe, or the 25 people that, are no longer on the list?
So the question is, the 25
Or-
people that are no longer on the list, you're asking if they were found safe.
Yeah, does that mean?
So if they were dropped from the 388 or if they were dropped from the 3200, they were found safe. There may be a couple that we have accounted for, but realize when I say that they're accounted for, we know where they're at, but we haven't had a chance to notify a family member. So we didn't
got
want to
it.
be cruel, and that's the list of unaccounted is the 31. I'm sorry, yeah, it's the 31. And so
That could include some of the deceased.
the list of the 31 is unaccounted for.
Okay.
So if we know who they are and we've recovered them and we've identified them, they are in fact accounted for.
Accounted for. They just haven't been told to family yet.
Maui, now.
I know in past criminal investigations, I don't know how far the legal system is going to go with any of the lawsuits, but in past criminal investigations, the remains have been kept in evidence. Do you plan on returning the remains to family members, and how long will that process be?
Okay, so the question is, with previous criminal investigations, remains are held as evidence. So in this case, is that being treated as such? And if not, when will the remains be delivered to their loved ones, correct?
No, we're not planning on holding remains for criminal need. So there's no criminal need for us to hold the remains. So once they've been identified and their remains are as whole as we're going to have them, and the family's been notified, then they can select a funeral home and the remains can be delivered to them.
My follow-up question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow up on that. We've got over 50, I believe, that we've already released to the family.
okay.
There's the mortuaries that are here have taken some of them. And Wendy, I actually really do appreciate the question. I think it's a really good question. I think it's very important that people understand this, though. This is not a crime. This is a natural disaster. This is a natural disaster, and that the law enforcement role is in some ways a secondary or even a further down the road role, but because of the investigation and the missing persons component, as well as the coroner's office, MPD has a role, but there's no reason to hold these because there has been no crime committed. These are victims of a horrific fire.
Doctor, can you help us understand more about the overlay of the DNA profiles versus the DNA samples? It would appear that you need about 21 samples to eventually match your profiles. Is that right? You have 21 or so profiles without a claimant.
Okay, so the question is, how do you go from it being a sample to an actual?
I guess I'm asking, where are we at now with how many of your profiles still need a live claimant or a live sample to come forward for them?
Okay, so to summarize, how does a DNA sample become a DNA profile become a DNA sample?
I think
No?
there are two different things. I think
No.
the
No.
profile comes from the deceased, the sample comes from the living, so that you can make the match.
Okay.
And yeah, so if you could explain, how many more people do you need to come forward from your missing list? How many samples do you have from the living who are saying, I have a missing person, 31 people, I have a missing person. But one slide said you have 12 samples, so do you need a couple dozen more people to come forward with samples? On the other hand,
I think what she's getting at right now is how many of the people that they have remains for and they've DNA checked them, but they don't have any connection to who that person is. because no one has actually claimed that person. Are there any people who have passed away that no one has claimed? I think that, I may be wrong, but I think that's what she's getting at.
For the deceased, right, will you eventually, if there's a profile that eventually someday has no claimant, has no sample, will you put it through a public database? Are there 23andMe's? Is there some other kind of thing you can try to find them a match somewhere, somehow?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know how to summarize that, Gina. So as long as Dr. J understood it, I'm gonna let him answer that. You guys are killing me.
So let's see if I can go through this. Okay, so we have, as I remember, about 90
It's true.
DNA samples, 95, somewhere in there. Some of them do not have family reference samples. So
Okay.
what I mean by that is, okay, so first, we need to have a sample from the decedent. Some of the samples are difficult to test. In fact, the lab is actively testing
you.
about 12 difficult
Love you, my
samples
dear.
right this moment. We're probably going to send them 2 more today, or two more in the near future. So then once we have the decedent sample, we check for the different alleles and make sure we have a match. So those will be the different categories of DNA that we'll check for. It's not a 23andMe. It won't show what kind of person it is. It's basically just a match of different markers in
Right.
their DNA. Then we have to have the family reference sample to compare it to, because without a family reference sample, we can't compare it to anything, and it just sits there. So if we have somebody who does not have family, or family doesn't come forward, having the DNA sample from the decedent alone will not give us an identification, and there's no other
Right.
database for us to go to get DNA from, not 23andMe or anything else at this time.
Oh,
And it becomes very, very difficult. So we do need families to come forward and provide DNA samples, especially if they have not received, if they still have an unaccounted for relative and they still are struggling to find that person, they need to step forward and give us a DNA sample if they haven't. And it needs to be direct blood relative, and the closer they are related, the better the sample will be, because the more overlay of DNA there is. You know, a third cousin is not as related to a brother, sister, mother, father.
Lone Wolf, I get what you're saying there. I think where the thought is with this is not a case of, yeah, and yes, some of these people, like they're saying, some of these people might actually have, they've got DNA showing that this person was a human being. But then, by the way, Christola, what you just sent me, that's actually in the plans. And, but maybe not now, but a couple years down the road, maybe a family member's like, wait, I haven't talked to Auntie so-and-so, and then they report it. We're hoping, because this was such a big thing, people would have recognized, hey, I've got an auntie who lives in Maui. I haven't heard from her. Let me go follow up on that. And so I'm hoping that will make the difference there. I think the biggest issue we're going to have with people not being reported missing is people scared of submitting their DNA. That's the biggest issue. And part of that is real information out there. Part of it is disinformation out there. There's a lot of things out there that are scaring people into doing these things. But unfortunately, it's also the only way they're going to be able to identify some of these people's family members. Okay, otherwise they're just a grouping of DNA, and that's it, which is sad.
So that's kind of where we are with that, if that answers some of your
I
question.
think it does, and then I guess people would ask, okay, out of your 31 reports, have all 31 given you a DNA sample, or are you still needing to get that from those family members?
Do we know when the last census
Yeah,
was?
please.
I forget.
Jump in.
Yeah, let me just add a couple of more things of why, you know, for example, the number, we have more remains.
Actually, sorry, I'm stopping on this because Lone Wolf is pulling up some amazing ideas here too. Census, I think part of it is because we have tourists in the area, number one. Not everyone ends up on the census, especially the homeless side of things. 2020 would have been, so we're already, about 3 years into it. Also, I hate to say it, Maui is one of those places. I'm learning this. I did not know this before the fire. Talking to some locals there, a lot of people like to go there to kind of disappear. And so I think but that is a good point, actually. Could they go to the census and cross check things at some point? Something's going to have to happen for the remaining people at some point in the game, for sure. And great ideas, guys.
That we're telling you, then we have profiles. One of the reasons is because we determine the number of remains anatomically, and then we take DNA samples, send them to the DNA lab. They return back a result, And those results collectively tell you how many unique profiles you have. So that's kind of the process. But we're also making some identifications dentally. We have dentists working in there 7 days a week. And if we make a dental identification and we didn't have a DNA family reference, it's okay. That identification gets made by the doctor and we move on. So we may not end up getting all of those family reference samples, and we may not need all of them. But if there's somebody still on that list of 31, and their family has not contributed a sample, then I would consider it urgent. Very urgent for them to provide that sample.
You know, and the DNA question, I mean, you know, the questions today really are very good.
Yeah.
199 family members have provided DNA.
199,
And
wow.
so of that, we've made 74 identifications. There is a little bit of protection that I can't give you. Some of that I have to respect it because none of this DNA is being used for any reason other than this particular identification. We're not entering it in any criminal database. We can't do anything with it other than match for this specific incident. If, just like the doctors have said, if you have a loved one and we have not made a notification, as many immediate blood family members that can provide that DNA, they need to do so because it will help tremendously. And that's really what we want, you know. And so I would tell you that the number that you saw and what Dr. Bird was referencing is you have 95 unique profiles we've identified. We have 12 others out there. Those could be 12 new ones, but they also could be replications of the 95. And so I'm showing you as transparently as possible. The purpose of this was not to confuse anybody, but was to show transparently, this is exactly what we've got. We're laying it all on the table for you. We've got 7.
We've got Maui Police, the people that are here right now. We have the Maui Police Department. We've got people from the FBI, the MIA POW identification group is there, medical examiners. This whole press conference was specifically about the missing, which is why I decided to cover it, because this is really where a lot of us have been concerned about what's going on with all this. So hope that helps some. I can't remember his name, or I'd give it to you. I will research it and get back to you.
74 that we've identified, 31. And so you can do the math and figure that number out. We've got 95 plus 12, and it could be as high as that much, but they could be duplicates because we sent a femur and we already have the other person identified, and we didn't know we had a femur of that person because you can't figure it out. So we're giving you a couple different metrics here to see what this picture is. And so if you want to say, well, 74 plus 31, or you want to say 12 plus 95, but I didn't do that purposely because I'm not going to tell you that's what the actual number is. I'm just trying to give you all the data and let you guys digest it and report it as appropriately as you can.
I appreciate they're giving us all the data, even though it's confusing. Yeah, TV.
Oh, point is now good. Associated Press.
Hi, sorry. So, you know, people are going to be like, what? It was 115 and now it's 9 something. I just want to be extra clear when we're explaining this to the world, right? Like, okay, so part of the reason was because, you know, they might have had like a DNA sample and remains. And for some people, you had both. For some people, you didn't have both. And so you guys had to kind of like, there was some commingling going on. So you had to kind of separate that out. And then, but then for the 95 that you have profiles for, does that mean there's 2 that you just don't have anything for, or there's the 12 factors into that somehow? And then the medical examiner, are you the medical examiner for Maui? Because I thought Maui is coroner through the police chief. So Maui has a medical examiner.
Okay, so I'm going to summarize the easiest part of your question, which is who is the coroner versus who is the medical examiner, and then clarification on the numbers one more time as far as the DNA sampling and profiles, correct?
And why there's, you know, to just explain why we were at 115 and now.
Okay, and how we went from 115 to 97. Okay, correct.
Thank you.
So the office of the chief of police for this county, as well as the other neighbor island counties, is also the coroner. I'm not a medical examiner. I'm not a doctor. And so I am lucky that I was able to hire the best in the business, and we lured him over here. And so,
By the way, Jet's mom, that's Chief of Police Pelletier. He was also in, believe it or not, Vegas during those things. That was interesting, I found. I hope that helps.
that's who does the medical exams. And before we had them, we shared a few with some of the other neighbor islands, and they're the ones that did the different autopsies and things like that. I will let them answer some of the DNA questions because they're far better at that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so this lower number that we're arriving at is actually a number that, it's good news to have a lower number, that's for darn sure. But with the different profiles and other samples that are out there, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that we're reunifying. And so as we work the cases and work the numbers and work the samples, things are coalescing into lower numbers. So it's hard to explain because there's many steps along the way and many different processes to get to these numbers. So it's not, it's like a very complex equation to get to where we are. Yeah, if you can explain it better, it's super complex.
This is not unlike.
This is the guy
kind of
from
work we do in our
POWs.
POW MIA mission, where estimating numbers of people that have come into the morgue or to the laboratory for analysis is oftentimes very difficult at first. And then as you do more and more examination, more and more testing, it becomes more and more clear until eventually you settle on the exact right number. I would say we are not at the place where we are settling on the exact right final number. We're not there yet. And some of the complexities involved have to do with the fact that you had many different entities here all helping and collecting and recovering remains from down in the scenes in Lahaina. But different entities might come through, collect remains at different times. They label the bags the way that they label the bags. So you have bags coming into the morgue with different kinds of labels on them. And initially what our anthropologists do is we look at body bags that come in, and we do an initial inventory and we assess how many people are represented there. And when you do the first tally of all those that have come in, the number tends to be too high because as you begin to do more analysis and examination, you realize that actually you got two bags that were the same person, or you have two bags that were the same two people, but you didn't realize that until you did the work to analyze specifically what you have. And you often get the DNA results back, and the DNA results also inform the process. So I think it is normal and natural that the number starts out a little bit too high on the morgue side and then eventually settles until at some point it's going to be a final accurate number. But I would say we're not quite there yet.
You know what amazes me with that? Yeah, Seal, exactly. This is daunting. This has been going on for how many weeks, and we keep seeing numbers go all over the place. And I think that's what's led to a lot of the different conspiracy theories, things like that, and all, because what we're seeing is just what we're seeing. We don't know these ins and outs like you just mentioned. Okay, and once you start getting that full information, it gives you more to be able to work off of in your head and solve the questions that are popping up in our head. I mean, yeah, I'm really appreciating having these guys here talking today.
And even with what we've received, in addition to human, we've actually even received non-human remains along the way that we've had to make sure that they are in fact non-human. And it's been about 16 cases that were non-human, mixed in with the other people who have come through. So there's lots and lots of moving bits of
Animals
in this situation. It is a mass disaster.
Got it.
Thank you
Got
all
it,
for
my dear.
coming. Everyone have a safe weekend. Thank you.
This ends quickly. I do remember that. It ended very, very quickly. And so there we go. Yeah, no, I really, them sharing all this information with us, it's making things make more sense when you realize that, yeah, they're getting, I know this is just, it's creepy. It's almost TMI, but you're getting body bags that have multiple people, and they realize that, so they're kind of looking at weighing things and stuff like that and looking at what's in it and like, okay, wait, we have 6 hip bones here or something. Well, that's going to be more than one person then. Okay, so you can start seeing those types of things going on. But then the numbers also change when they do a DNA and realize, okay, wait, this here we thought might be this bone, but it turned out to be a dog or something like that. So it really does help. And because so many people were starting to get so many concerns. And yes, some of the people are okay. The DNA is the hardest part with this, guys. I'm going to pull up the missing list again while I'm talking. But the DNA is the hardest part because, in all honesty, we all know that to identify these people, we're going to need DNA. Unfortunately, yeah, you got to be realistic. People are not trusting. Okay, that the DNA, yes, the law says it can only be used for these things. But that doesn't mean people won't have fears. And they do have fears. That's just normal for us to have fears, especially when it comes to the government a lot of times. But unfortunately, that's also the only way some of these people are going to be identified. Otherwise, they will be counted. Okay, they're going to be counted because they're going to have like this person's DNA. This is how we identify them as this DNA grouping here. But they're not going to have a name, and they need their name. And I'm hoping over time, more and more people are going to realize we need to donate that, not donate. We need to give that DNA. We need to go and do these things so that we can, if we're missing people, recognize that. Now, are there going to be other people? I honestly, I'm sorry, I don't agree with them. There are going to be some people who, okay, who knows? Who knows? Okay, I mentioned this the other day in Sleuth's chat. Were there any people who may have gone out into the water and gotten into a riptide or something? There's a lot of people that, okay, get lost at sea. I'm not saying that happened, but it's possible. It is possible. Do I think it's thousands and thousands? No, we've got to be realistic here too. So, but yeah, no, Margie, I know, yeah, your family are going to be coming up there. My brother was supposed to bring me pictures. I'm going to get on his case because he hasn't sent me the pictures he was going to send me. So I'm going to bug him tonight about that. But yeah, it's really, really scary. How are they going to get their lives back? Yeah. If you look at it, those of you who are from, whether it be New York, okay, and 911, whether it be Katrina or Florida and any of the hurricanes or things, tornadoes, things like that, we move on to the next story. But people are going to be trying to recover and get their lives back to normal for years. And that's why I'm saying the donations and everything, which again, please, the donation link up above is actually connected to the Hawaii Community Foundation, which is giving 100%. That I did verify. 100% is going, okay, to Maui. But I know what a lot of people have said is they've got a lot of the money in now, where the fear is a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months, as new things start popping up. Because what people need now is not what they're going to be needing 3 months from now. Needs are going to be changing. And right now they're not looking at what those needs are. And so that's why I'll be honest, I may come back once every couple months to this. And because I think it's something close to me in my heart. Margie, I know the same with you. And Lone Wolf, I can guarantee that some people were cremated by the fire and there won't be any remains found. And and that's the thing. I have problems when they say 100%. You guys know me. There's no such thing as 100% on anything. Very few things in life are 100% black and white. Okay, there's going to be some people who slide through the cracks. it's going to have, is it going to be thousands upon thousands? No, mainly because you can look, the ones who slide through the cracks are usually a smaller proportion or percentage of the larger number. Yeah. So you got to look at that smaller portion. But yeah, Lone Wolf, you're right. There's going to be some that did. Seal, it took 10 years to look normal after Katrina. And Lahaina is going to push. We're already talking about how can, okay, things be done to retain the community, retain the Hawaiian identity. Okay, remember those things. Okay, you've got community pushing forward to that. On that to protect. See, and that's where I probably have issues with things because her mansion is literally nowhere near where the fire was. And so that's where we really got to look at. But see, the thing is, no one knows the location. All you know is these people. And trust me, I agree with like Hope and all. I agree with you guys, to be honest, between you and me, I do, and all of YouTube. But we also got to be realistic. She lives up in the frickin' mountains, far away from where a lot of this stuff was happening. The water issues were actually tied to issues with the rights of of use of water, because there are some Hawaiian rights connections with use of water. Okay, in certain areas, they had to get permission to open up and use certain aquifers and stuff like that. So, so it's important. It's kind of like the other day I heard someone was telling me that some millionaire, oh God, who was it? It was one of the tech people, was buying up tons of land in Maui right now. And I went on looking because it's this whole article about it. Oh God, I wish I had saved this. And it turned out that article, which people were then passing around as, oh my gosh, look at this truth, look at this truth. It actually turned out to have been written by a social media group that was parodying things that were happening around the world right now. So it had no facts behind it. It was actually to make fun of people, okay, and all this stuff. And it's just so frustrating because my mom was one of those. She's like, look, what's happening. And I'm like, no. That doesn't make sense. That does not make sense. And then when I found out, I was like, Mom, do you realize you just believed something that was actually written to try to prove a point? And I kind of wish they hadn't written it because people believed it too. So, but yeah, the Oprah thing. Okay. And trust me. And yeah, Margie's got it right here. Okay. Yeah. Margie, I'm sorry. I know you know where she lives and all that. So, but they're definitely building anything in Hawaii is almost impossible. I mean, any type of construction in Hawaii takes years and years and years and years, if anything. Where I think we need to be focusing is how can we speed up construction projects for the local families that lost their homes. That's where I'm focusing on. Okay, how can we make sure businesses who lost their restaurant or things like that are able to rebuild up so that we can get jobs back for people? Because there's a lot of people who've lost their jobs too. Okay, yeah, there's so many. Yeah, Woody Harrelson lives out here. There's so many different things, and trying to recognize, and the amount of time I have spent trying to go through, is this truth or is this rumor? Or is it somewhere in between? Because a lot of times it's somewhere in between. And you just got to figure out that part of it. And it's hard. Okay, and that's it, Jet's mom. It's expensive. People, guys, you don't realize. People think, I've actually had people come to me and say, oh, you live in Hawaii, you must have tons of money. Oh, hell, it's the opposite, honestly. Because living in Hawaii, the cost of living is so freaking expensive. Look at what's his name who just won American Idol. His family literally had just moved to the mainland because they had been priced out of paradise. I've got many friends and family who've moved to the mainland because it's too expensive to live here. Okay, most families live in multi-generational households because of this. And so there's just so many different things that go on with this. And what we've got to do is figure out, how do we keep the Hawaiian identity, okay, the cultural identity, the history, and all that of Lahaina. Lahaina is the seat of a lot of that cultural history that needs to be remembered there. It can't become another tourist town or things like that. We also have to figure out, how are we going to make it affordable for people to build again? Because the thing is this, many of these houses were built under different codes. That's why they burnt so quickly. They were built under different codes. And so think of it, if you've lost your house to a fire, you're going to want to build it back to a level where you will never have to lose your house ever again. And people will. They will. We have people who lose their house to Madame Pele. Okay, Kilauea is erupting again. Okay, we've had whole towns, okay, destroyed by lava. And as soon as they're able to, they're building again, because that's home for them. So how can we do that? Yeah, people who are being, okay, who rent are being forced out of, and there are those things that are going on within these things now. How do we protect these people? How do we figure, because the problem comes here. Maybe you still have your apartment that you're renting and all that. Now, first of all, you do have hopefully contracts in place until your next rental renegotiation and stuff like that. But the problem comes into this. This is the next step. You've lost your job now. How are you going to pay your rent? Okay, I'll be honest, it's like back in COVID time. People aren't going to always put moratoriums. They got to earn their money too in some of the cases, because a lot of housing, apartment complexes and all are owned by locals. Okay, I've literally looked at my whole family coming together and buying an apartment. Okay, not a complex, but an apartment as an income thing for us so that we can pay off other bills. That's literally what we do out here. And will it ever happen? God only knows. And but yeah, there's going to be a lot of questions that we got to answer. Hell of a lot of questions we got to answer. Going back to this though, this is now the official updated list. It should have a new update. This is actually August 8th. Let me see if there is an updated one. I don't think they've updated it on Maui Nui Strong, but let me check. They may have, and if they do, I want to share that with you guys. So give me a second. Oh, nope, they have updated the list. So let me do this. I'm going to share with you guys the most up-to-date list now for those who are unaccounted for. Let me share that. This is dated as of today. Right there, working copy. Here we go. So this is now our most recent list of those as of 9/15. So as of today, okay, release of information as of this day, who were believed to, okay, they're still using August 8th for the information though. So they have not updated beyond there. Now, they've taken all the asterisks out because everything's under Maui PD now. And then the letter M lets us know that it is a keiki. It's keiki. It's a child. So we have here Justin here. That is a child. That we're down to one page, guys. I just noticed this. This is just one page. So guys, yes, the list is getting smaller. Actually, let me come out a little bit so you guys can see it all in one. That's our missing list now, guys. And that's good. It is good. We're starting to recognize who is who and things like that. One child, we don't know the age of that child. We got a name, but that's it. Hope, I know that's a huge, huge fear. This is what I'm going to say though, Hope. I expect us as locals to stand up. Okay. If our government does stuff like that, we need to be voting them out of the freaking office. Rather than complaining about it, we need to vote them out of the office. Okay. I do know there's a lot of interest, but interest does not equate to happening. Now, if it starts happening, we need to hold them responsible for it. We definitely need to hold them responsible. Part of the problem is, though, also the people, we had assholes and dirt bags who, as soon as this fire happened, they got on the phone with people who lost their houses saying, hey, you know what? I'll buy the land cheap and all that. Well, we have to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to sell to you. We have that possibility of doing that. As for the governmental land, okay, whether it be, okay, Hawaiian homelands, or if it is city and county owned or state owned or whatever else like that, okay, we hold those people responsible, whether it be through OHA, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, or things like that. There are ways to hold people responsible. And money wins, but guess what? Politicians need votes. Otherwise, they don't have a job. And that becomes something too. So we have to look at that. And honestly, right now, there are the moratoriums in place and stuff. So we have to also have that ability to stand. The people can be loud when we want to be. And when we see that. We are going into an election year. Okay. Things like this happen during an election year. There's a lot of power in standing firm. And that's exactly it right there, Hope. We got to stand firm. We have to stand with the people. We have to stand with, and I think we'll be okay in the end. Okay. And if not, take specifics. And this is where I'm saying, hey guys, it's important to see the specifics, not word of mouth, but the actual facts. Okay. If people are talking about, okay, Maui being sold off to this company, let's see the facts. Who is it who bought it? So we can all, because all that stuff is public. All that information will be public if it happens. And let's hold them responsible. Okay, we stand firm together. We stand for what's pono. Okay, pono, what is right. That's what we have to do. And I'm sorry, I've kind of taken this in a totally different direction and all that, but we as people, we as the population, the community and all that, okay, we hold power too. And yeah, that is part of the issue. Now, I think this is where, and people have to, I know you don't trust the government all the time, but you have to at some levels, because yeah, some of the people who own their homes may not have had insurance or things like that. But that's where we have money that's coming in to help with projects and stuff like that. That's why we have that Facebook group, to kind of help people who are in that situation figure ways to work within it. Yes, it does require applying for certain things and certain loans and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it is hard. It is definitely hard and sad when that insurance isn't out there. Hopefully it's fee simple land. Okay, we have other issues. We don't just have fee simple land out here. Okay, and we've actually 2025 is coming up where some of the other land's going to come back up. That's a whole local issue and all. So, but that's where I tell people all the time, Facebook, let me see if I can pull up the group that has been so good with helping locals. Okay, oh gosh, is it here? They have been so helpful in getting the word out to people. If you're having problems solving issues, figuring out how you're going to deal with, okay, job, is this legal? Is what this person doing legal? Is it not legal? All those things. Okay, you can come to that group, and I'm trying to find it right now. And of course, it's been a few days since I've been into it. I've shared it in the past. But anyhow, you go into there and they're helpful with saying, yes, this is legal. What's happening here? Why don't you go ahead and contact this group and stuff like that? Because we got to find solutions for them. And also, and the government, honestly, what's come out of this whole thing is something many of us kind of knew, especially on neighbor islands. Hawaii's government is a lot of old boy network stuff, a lot of, oh, okay, laid back local style type thing. And we can't, it can't be about laid back local style. We need to have systems in place. Okay, like I said, the water, the reason why some of that water was not released is because people were sitting on their hands and not giving the okay. Okay, and that's all connected to the water rights issues. And all. So it's just really, really, but that's where we have to. And you know what? It's up to our politicians either work for us or we find different politicians. We're in a state that has had the same, I hate to say it, party, and I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat or whatever. But when you've got a majority for generation after generation after generation, people get lackadaisical about it. And we can't be. We got to remember we're here for the people, no matter what. We need to figure out ways that we can help them right now because they need to get the help. We need to be helped because we're showing it on Facebook. It happens. And we know they care. So I am definitely glad the list is getting shorter. We're down to one page that's unaccounted for. That's the unaccounted list that you're looking at there. Okay, again, just before, because yes, we are going to go into Cantina in about 30 minutes, and I do need to get my stuff together. But just to remind everyone who was wondering, our death toll is now at 97. Okay, that is the official death toll. Now we're dealing with a lot of different numbers here. Okay, of those 97, 74 have been officially identified. We have actually been able to connect, or they have been able to connect DNA with DNA to give the person a name rather than just a number. They have a name for those people. They're in the process of contacting families and all that to let them know. Those unaccounted for is at 31. That list that you're looking at there should count to about 31 unless they've updated since. Those are people who we have a remains for. Oh, no, unaccounted. People have said, I have not seen them since the fire. And 31 people. Could there be more? Yes. Hopefully, if there are more, guys, you got to report your loved ones. Report them missing. And get in there, do the DNA. I know it's scary. We got to do that. We got to speak up for the ones who don't have a name yet. Okay. The unaccounted for plus the officially identified. So the ones who have a name now, okay, and then those who don't have all of these people together count to 105. So in general, we're looking at about 105. It can go up, it can go down still, but that's what we're looking at right now. For those of you who are here that would like to donate, please consider it. There's still people needing donations. There's still lots going on. If you want to wait on donating now and donate in about 2 or 3 months, they're still going to be needing money in a couple months. And in fact, that might even be a better idea, to be honest, at this point, because those things are going to be popping up when they start rebuilding and stuff like that. Okay, there may be new programs out there that don't exist now that we can help support at that time. So we will be having Cantina in just about 30 minutes. Again, like I said, sorry, I changed the times around a little bit because of this press conference. Plus, I've got a show that I have auditions for, and I've got a lot of work to do to prep for that tomorrow. So, but other than that, let me pull this down and say thank you to you guys. Thanks for watching this one. Really, thank you. It's so much more fun. It's more fun when I'm with you guys. Okay, not that this is fun by any means, but being able to sit with you guys as I'm going through this information really is nice because you don't feel so alone doing it. You can vent, you can share, you can be with other people, and also it's great. So want to say thank you to y'all. I will see you in 30 minutes. I think I set it up to redirect everyone to Cantina. So if you just hang out here, you'll head yourself over to Cantina right after there, and you have a chance to be first in chat. Rosalie, love you. Love you, love you, love you, my dear. Happy retirement. Ooh, I'm so excited for you. I am so freaking excited. I know you've been talking about this for years. I'm so happy. years and all. Okay, you guys have an awesome next half hour. If you can't make it to Cantina, I'll see you guys next time. And love each and every one of you. Cassie, are you wanting to say hi? Is that why you're getting up now too? Love all of you guys and talk soon. Bye bye.